Hello, and welcome to Not Too Shabby, the Chimney Corners Camp podcast, featuring camp directors Shannon Donovan Monty and Abbot Pittman. In each episode of this podcast, Shannon and Abbot will share crazy camp stories, let you in on some camp secrets, tips, and tricks, talk about life at Chimney, and even pull the curtain back on how camp runs from behind the scenes. From staffing to activity planning to the friendships we make along the way, join us twice a month for your camp fix.
You stopped at Lloyd Griffith, who was the director.
Yeah, so he became the Camp Becca director. Don at some point became the CEO.
Okay.
You know, and then there was...
And Gene was still over
And Gene
Chimney?
was still Chimney Corners.
So he was supervising his wife as the CEO?
Yes, yeah. Which again...
Bad form.
This is a very... But a very common... At the time, it was the standard. Like, Camp Belknap was run by a couple. Camp Sloan, another YMCA camp, was run by a couple. Again, where, you know, sometimes they were just partners. Sometimes most often the man in the couple would be the boss. There's also a lot of couples where the man was employed by the Y, but clearly a lot of free labor from their partner. And I think for us, like, I'm going to put my feminist hat on that camping in general kind of benefited from a lot of free labor from partners of camp directors, you know, through the years. And I think it's really important that we give all of those women who did a lot of heavy lift, a lot of work on behalf of the camp, that they get their recognition in general, because they were hugely influential. And it's something I think we always have to think about. I mean, even early in my career, there's a very different attitude about women who worked in camp and men who worked in camp. In terms of the expectation often was that if a man had a camp job, that his wife would be helping and supporting him. However, that was never an assumption for me as an employee that my husband would jump in or help or support.
Yeah, interesting.
You know, I hate to say it, but there was often a double standard about that in terms of what the expectation was.
Yeah, I'm not surprised by that at all. So you have Dawn Schellenberger, CEO, Gene, camp director. And so we have now entering the chat is the concept of a CEO.
Yes.
And so we had moved to Susan, who was the director before you.
Right. Well, you're right. So let's just quick to give you a rundown. So once Don became CEO, he's the first CEO of Becca Chimney Corners YMCA.
Okay.
The next person was Mike Ketchum. Then following Mike Ketchum was Jerry Courtney.
Okay.
Who was then followed by Phil Connor, and now Amy Guchenritter.
So there really has only been 5 of those too. Is that 5? 4?
Don, Mike, Jerry, Phil, Amy. Yeah, 5. And Amy, of course, was the first alumni of the camp and first woman. Yeah. Obviously. And 5th CEO.
So cool.
Yeah, so that's cool. And then, so right around the same time that Mike Ketchum left, and Susan France left shortly before Mike Ketchum, the CEO. So when I got hired, Mike Ketchum was leaving. Susan had left, and we actually were in a CEO search from when I started until they hired. So they hired Jerry Courtney. I started in February. Mike, I think, left in April, and then we didn't have a CEO in place until until the end of the first summer. Wow. And at that point, Dave DeLuca was the director of Camp Beckett. So
yes, that's Lori's husband.
Lori DeLuca's
husband.
Yes.
The one and only.
Yes.
Okay.
Dave and I, our first summer working together, it was
okay.
Dave had worked at Camp Beckett for a number of years.
Right.
He'd done outdoor center stuff. He'd been a ropes course director. Lori had worked in the office for Gene, had also been a unit director for Susan. You know, so the DeLucas had worked for Don and Jean for a number of years before Dave became the full-time director of Camp Beckett in 95. So he was there 95, 96, and then working with Susan. He had replaced Mark Smith. And then, so then I became the director of Chimney Corners in 97.
I was 5 years old at that time, in case you're wondering.
Oh, that's nice to know. Yeah, and Bridget had just turned 1.
Okay.
And and Lori was my first at the time we called her program director, but was essentially assistant camp director. And Lori was a huge part because I came in February. So imagine
that's when I came in my first year.
Right.
Yeah.
Well, so you don't have to imagine. You know,
I am. I'm thinking about it right now. It's crazy because you don't really. You have to learn everything.
And I know. And Lori was just trying to help me understand the scope. I still remember a dream she had that first summer. Isn't that weird that I remember her dream? And it was this dream about, she dreamt that there was this huge tidal wave coming and I was walking around and had no idea. And she was trying to warn me to hold on and get ready. And, and it was so telling that, I think she knew that I just had no concept of I had worked in camping for 7 years.
Yeah.
So I understood some of it, but it was a very different thing. I had worked in co-ed camping.
Right.
2-week programs, I hadn't been fully in charge of it.
Plus it's so hard to come into a new community.
Oh.
And you had, I can't sympathize because I was so lucky to have entered the community under, I guess, a culture shift in which it was incredibly inclusive. But I don't know what it was like when you were there. Obviously, I was 5 in 98. So you mentioned that people were
97. But...
Okay, 97. You had mentioned that it was a little bit of a tough transition.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. It's hard because you know how we are here. It's like you get so attached. I felt like an outsider for a long time, because Dave and Lori knew everybody and people would, and people really miss Susan and I don't blame them.
Yeah.
They loved her. They absolutely, and they should, she had been a huge part of their life and had supported them. And she was that reassuring voice and they didn't know me and they didn't know, and I didn't, to be frank, I did not really know what I was doing. I had to learn.
Yeah.
If I could say anything about a new job is that you have to forgive yourself for not being perfect at it right out the bat.
Yeah.
You and I went through that. It's so hard to start a new job.
Yeah.
You just feel like you don't get it and you don't. There's just no way for you to get it. And everybody had known each other forever. And I still remember what that felt like. And to be honest, it was years. It was a number of years before I didn't feel like the new kid,
Yeah. And I still feel like the new kid. I'll be going into my 4th summer.
Yeah.
So I totally understand.
Well, and I always laugh. So I would say things like, hey, have you ever tried, this? And I'd be told, well, no, that's not how we do things. Or, and, I felt like I was always that, let's try this new thing. And people were saying, no, that's not the tradition. And then Dave left and Chris came, and overnight I started being the person saying, oh no, that's not how we do it. Oh no, that's not the tradition. And it was such a strange thing that it was kind of I don't really know when that happened, but obviously it wasn't until Chris came and he was more new, and I suddenly was, because nobody else had been throwing new ideas at me necessarily. And so it was kind of a funny thing.
A little sweat shop there.
Yeah.
So Susan only did 5 years?
6 years.
6 years.
90, 91, 92, 93, 94, 95. 7 years.
Oh, my bad.
Wait.
Oh, we're going to do more math.
So 90, 91, 92, 93, 94, 95, 96. 7 years.
She's counting on her fingers.
7
Nobody
summers.
can see that. She's literally counting on her fingers.
But also remember that Susan had been at Beckett Chimney for a number of years. She'd also left and had been an educator and, done other things as well.
Okay.
So
Okay.
Yeah. And then she went in to work at Berkshire Country Day School, so she was nearby. Yeah.
Okay.
So, and her family was still very much involved with the camps through the medical service and things like that.
All right. So I'm going to recap this to see if I get it right.
Okay.
Are you ready?
Yeah.
Okay. We got the Gibsons.
Yep.
Who started Beckett. They started Camp Beckett, right?
No, they didn't start Camp Beckett. I mean, the Beckett was a YMCA right off the bat.
Oh, okay. They were working at Beckett.
But he was the second director of Camp Beckett.
Right. And then his wife, Ina, they got a house built where the IGL is now.
Yep.
With a decrepit chimney that was refurbished.
Yep.
Which would be the namesake of Chimney Corners Camp.
Yes.
They hired the Smiths.
They sold
the camp. Okay, thank you. They sold the camp to the Smiths.
Yes.
They sold Chimney to the Smiths. The Smiths took it over.
Yep.
And they ran it
as a private camp. From 1941
till 70.
Till 1971 was their last summer. In 1972,
they sold it to the Y.
Yeah, in that transition, and then the first YMCA summer was 1972.
1972. And in 1972, the people running it were the Schellenbergers or still the Smiths?
In 1972, Jean Schellenberger was running Chimney Corners.
You prefer what I just... It's Jean. Her husband becomes a CEO.
Eventually, like a couple years later.
Okay. After the Schellenbergers, that is Susan. And that is in the early... That's like 1990.
So, yeah. So the Schellenbergers retired. Both of them retired. Here, another really interesting thing to think is that the Schellenbergers and Lloyd Griffith and Seal all retired at the same time.
Oh, wild. Big exodus.
Yeah. So that big transition, like if you think about imagining that, and we probably most recently, I just realized
wow, that's a lot better.
Yeah. I was holding the microphone way too low. Sorry. Probably the most similar thing for us is that, we had the same staff in place here for many, many years right before COVID. And then we suddenly, a lot of things changed, with Phil leaving and, just Berta leaving, again, we went from having nothing change to having a bunch of things change in a very short period of time. And, it's challenging. And you came in at a big transition and a big challenging time.
But I do think that having, Berta, she's changed jobs at the end of 2020 or toward the beginning of 2021?
I don't remember.
No, Berta, if you're listening, I'm sorry.
No. So what was your first
I started
summer?
In 22.
Right.
She wasn't here in 21 and 2020 camp
No,
didn't
she
run.
left, right. And she had this amazing opportunity, and
you encouraged her.
I almost had to make her because Berta is probably the most devoted, caring human being. And she had worked so hard on behalf of Chimney and, but I think, her family was in New Hampshire, in Boston. Yeah. And I think living out here had become challenging. And she got this amazing opportunity to work at a place that, she was familiar with. It was a good career choice. She loved Chimney, but it can be hard to be out here sometimes in the Berkshires and and I totally and understanding wanting to be near family and things like that. So,
yeah,
I think it was hard to have her go, but it was I pushed really hard because I knew it was what she felt. It was the point that she was really ready for.
Absolutely. Yeah. And I think that a big part of the reason that I felt so welcomed when I came here was because there was 2 years of no Berta. Like it wasn't like Berta left and then here I am, like having to replace her. And she was so beloved that that would have been a hard transition, but there were 2 years without her. So
that's right.
There was some kind of buffer time.
Right. And the nice thing is you got to spend time with Berta. And
yes. And I love Berta and I'm very close to Berta, even though I like to pretend she's my enemy.
Mm-hmm.
But she did paint the cabin that was once hers that I now live in, the most heinous colors, Shannon. And Berta, I hope you're listening, because every time I post on my Instagram story and you can see the green walls, like candy apple green walls, she always comments and goes, "Those are some nice paint colors."
Yeah, very funny, because Berta, like, that was part of when she came in. She said, "Okay, but I want my cabin painted in these so specific colors." Like, and I was like, "Okay." Like, it was just like, this was, and it turned out that she told me the story. It had something to do with, like,
Coniston.
she was at Coniston, right? And they had just painted.
They had
something.
surplus paint, so she just brought it with her.
Is that it?
Yeah.
No, I thought it was that she
it.
had seen these colors
No.
and they looked okay.
It was free paint.
No, because okay.
That's what it is. We'll get her on this podcast and we'll ask her about
To
this.
find out what the truth of the matter is.
Yeah, we'll be like, Berta, come on. And yeah, she'll probably listen to it and then comment that. But I think it was surplus paint. She picked up cans of free paint from Coniston because it was extra, and she brought it and she was like, "I'm gonna paint these colors." And it was this dark navy blue, which she painted the bedrooms. It was like a cave. For the first 2 years that I lived here before I painted it white, it was a cave. And then she painted the candy apple green in the living room and like this mustard, like this pale mustard yellow in the basement and the bathroom. It's not good.
How about it's not your color choices? Everybody's got their different
I don't know.
things that they
I've
like.
seen Berta's new place in Boston, and
Yeah.
it's very well decorated. So I have a lot of questions about her choice for these paint colors, because that house is beautiful. But
Yeah.
what was happening with this candy apple green?
I don't
And why
know.
did Coniston paint their building this color?
I don't know.
Separate question for Coniston.
A historical aside
Okay.
that I was thinking about is what we're talking about is the assistant director.
I would love to talk a little bit about that. Yeah.
Yeah. And I don't want to go back beyond me because I'm going to make huge mistakes. But so we know Lori was my very first assistant director.
Yeah. When it was called program director. Yep.
And then Lori had an opportunity to work in the outdoor center. And so there's Angel Krim, who's now
I've met Angel
Brunel. Shout out to Angel. So Angel and I had worked together at Camp Jewel, and she'd done a lot of things. So she'd been looking at some jobs here, and this opportunity, we decided that it would be great to have a year-round program director for each camp. And so Angel got hired for Chimney Corners.
And she lived in the Half Moon where I live.
Wait, no. I don't think she did.
You'll have to find out.
No, did she?
I don't know.
No, she didn't, because the food service director lived there.
Oh, no
Tommy
kidding.
Marshalik. And Angel lived in one of the two cabins across the road here.
Oh, where
I'm sorry, Angel. It was either where Haley or Brittany lived.
Okay.
I think it was where Haley lived.
Okay.
Yes.
The mosquito.
No, that's right. That's right. Because then, that's right. And then following Angel, for one summer, there was a woman named Cindy, whose last name I'm not remembering, just a seasonal person.
Okay. That's after Angel left.
Right. Angel was still here at Beckett Chimney, but working for Outdoor Center.
Oh, gotcha. Okay.
Yeah. And then
they keep stealing your people.
They kept stealing my people. And then Emily King. I hired Emily King. And then Berta. Mm-hmm. And then you.
And then me.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, I'm sorry. And then in between, again, Lori was the assistant director at the first year back, the COVID.
2021.
The post-COVID summer, which was when we were doing 2-week sessions. And
yes,
that was definitely a hard summer.
We should do a separate podcast on our COVID experiences, because you and I had very different experiences. I was in Florida and my camp ran in 2020.
Right.
And
which
it was wild.
Right. And what we all know in hindsight is, I mean, it sounds like it was hard, but yeah.
2021 was way harder.
Right. And yeah, definitely.
So we should definitely do that podcast. I think it'd be interesting history.
Right.
Because we're coming up on 5 years since COVID. Can you believe that?
No.
Does it not just feel like last year?
Yeah.
Oh, that's weird.
I know.
In March, it'll be 5 years since quote unquote lockdown. Now, I never experienced a lockdown because I was in Florida.
Right. Well, and I traveled more during COVID.
Yeah.
Than ever. Because there was a bunch of different, anyway, we're going to have to
We'll have to do a separate podcast on that because I think that'd be interesting. So you had 5 assistant directors. You have had 5 assistant directors? 4. If you count Lori, it's 5, yeah?
Yeah. Wait, Lori,
she's counting on her fingers
Berta,
again.
Emily.
Angel.
You, Angel. Yeah, 5.
5.
And Cindy, 6, because Cindy did do one summer one of the transition summers.
And it was during Berta's tenure that you changed it to assistant director?
Yes.
Okay, so her and...
Which, again, that's a funny perception thing. I think at the time, Berta and also Dan felt like the assistant camp director, they liked that title better. Than program director. Like, to me, in the Y, program director seemed more like, I don't know. It's all perception.
It's funny, I see the opposite. Like, I think assistant director sounds higher than program director. And that was coming from
they
me,
did
who
too.
was once a program director at a Y.
Right.
Yeah.
I know, it's strange. Like, to me, assistant, in a way, just because it's assistant, but played around with titles a lot.
Yeah.
Titles we could have a whole nother title podcast.
Really could. It's very silly.
Yeah.
So that brings us to present day. And you are in your 29th summer coming this year. It'll be your 29th summer.
I guess. Yeah, we'll have to map it out.
At that, yeah. And then you need to beat 31.
Yep.
So you need definitely 2 or 3 more summers.
Yeah.
3 to beat her.
But yeah, probably more than that.
Yeah, because of retirement age, and you're never going to retire also.
Right.
So that solves that problem.
Because why should I?
I don't see any reason why you should.
What's the difference?
They'd be rioting in the streets.
That's right. That's right. And I'm just a figurehead anyway.
Oh, you wish. And that wraps up our final part of brief Chimney history. Now, I think, Shannon, I would love to in the future talk to you about some of the weird traditions, or there are some weird ones. Don't look at me like that. And some of the bizarre names for things like Dead Horse Trail. And I've heard of Handy Andes and Handy Annies, and I want to hear all about that. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to do like a vocabulary quiz with you in the future to learn kind of the history of those. But I think that we have a really good baseline chimney history. What do you think?
I think that's possibly true.
I love your confidence.
I know. I'm so confident.
Well, y'all, thank you so much for tuning in, and we really hope to see you in the next episode.
That sounds great.
Bye.
Bye.
Hey, Shannon and Abbott, it's Berta. Here is my little voice memo for you to tell the tale as to how the Half Moon interior colors came to be. So when I was moving to Chimney Corners, I was leaving a job from Camp Coniston, which was the camp I grew up going to. And I was given the advice when moving to camp that if I wanted anything done to Half Moon, the cabin I'd be moving into, it'd be best to have them do the work before I moved down there. So if I want it painted or anything like that. So I was like, yeah, I definitely want that, because the downstairs basement area was this bright white color, the whole coloring. And this was before they did the mudroom. And then the upstairs was all gray, except for the bathroom, which was like this periwinkle purple. So I'm like, all right, I definitely want to change up the colors here. But, had a hard time picking colors. And Coniston had just had its office redone, and all the staff got to pick their own colors for their office. And I really liked all the colors people picked. So those were the colors I chose to do different rooms in, except for the accent wall, Abby, which I know you'll love. I did pick out the maroon accent color all by myself. And I was really happy with all of my choices. The only one I didn't love was the bedroom, the bluish purplish color. Just didn't come out the way I thought it would look, but wasn't gonna change it. But everything else I was very happy with, and I know you, Abbott, love my color choices oh so much. So yeah, that is how the paint colors came to be. Hope you guys are good. Bye.